You're such an asshole.
Hello, children. We have an interesting request, and just to narrow it down because I didn't have time to put a truly accurate yet prohibitively lengthy description. The client here wants to know how I would have handled the financing, the budget of the disease, not necessarily the entire biomedical response to it. So, dear Cappy, you oftentimes criticize Trump for how he handled the pandemic. Is it when it comes to the stimulus checks? But what else could he have done? So many people lost their jobs because of the government's response to the pandemic. All right. But and we have to differentiate now between federal response and state government response because there's state rights. And so there's two very important principles that are going to come into conflict with each other. And I would have made my decision based on these two, trying to kind of respect both. You probably disagree with this, but shouldn't the government help people they themselves screwed over? All right. And in a certain way, because of non-financial policies or they still had states' rights. Okay. Wasn't necessarily like this federal dictate that came down, though there were federal dictates in other ways. But when it came to what states did what, that's a very important. I like that part of America because government is closer to the people that want. Like, for example, I mean, technically, we could have communism and capitalism in this country based on states' rights. And we kind of do. There's California, and then there's, I don't know, Florida or Texas, even South Dakota, if you want to throw it in there. And that was why they called the Great American Experiment. And I'm for that because I want people to have the maximum amount of freedom. If you're pro choice, you go live in that state. If you're not pro choice, you go live in the other state or states. If you want good schools for my parents, I want you to do the you want a nanny state babying. You want a single mother state? Go live in California where everything's free and there are no consequences. Why is there shit on the streets? Or maybe you want a very strict conservative, Bible Belt, almost a theocracy. I don't think that really exists anymore. I guess maybe Alabama, Mississippi, maybe. I don't know. I'd be the most I'd be truly, the federalist president. Like, that's up to you. I'd be outsourcing Social Security and Medicare to the state. Like, yeah, we're not doing this anymore. The feds are not done. We're done. Going back to the original charter, interstate commerce and defense. Maybe a judicial system like, federal law enforcement for enforcing what few federal laws are. Otherwise, I don't give a shit what the 50 children I have do. You all can make your own choices. But if we're invaded, we all get together, all right? So that'd just be my approach. But shouldn't the government help the people they themselves screwed over? Right, if the government screwed them over. That's at the state level. Whether or not you have to go out, whether you have to put on the thing. I believe Trump was pretty much put in a no-win situation. I think his only other option would have been to overrule the state governors who shut down their states. No, here's a third option. If you had been president during the disease, what would you have done differently with like a VA response? Now, I'm not going to go into all the non-financial things that I would have done, right, or different choices. Because I am not fully educated and informed on all the different things the federal government did was the 50 state. I'm not going to get into that. But the finance is very simple. I would have said, no. I'd be like sitting down with the governors. I'm like, hey, let's know how the federal government can help out. We'll get whatever the shots to you if you want it. If you need medical personnel, but I'm not printing off money. We are not doing UBI. Right? Me personally, I would have said, hey, I mean, now keep in mind, this keeps hindsight, of course. But after I didn't see bodies piling up in the street, like we were saying, like after a month, I'd be like, okay, for those of you who are young and healthy, go to work. Those of you who are susceptible, stay the F home. Absolutely. And if you look at the data on who passed away, it was older people, obviously. Like, yeah, respiratory compromise, you stay home. I think everyone's gotten it since, right? And then still not a shit ton of bodies in the street. Regardless, I would have basically said, look, you states do whatever you want, okay? But we're not printing off money. We're not. Y- There is a fixed there's a minimum fixed amount of pain every individual and every society will suffer simply because of the vagaries of life, because of reality, because we don't live in a perfect world. And we can choose to pay them now or pay them later, kind of like a car. You can pay for a car, take all the pain up front, pay cash for it, or you can spread it out and amortize it over time. What we decided to do was to spread it out over time with inflation. We're paying for it now with inflation. You cannot just, whatever it was, quadruple the money supply and not expect that to have consequences. I would have said, no, we're not printing off money. We're going to keep the economy going as much as we can in critical places as possible while keeping the people who are most susceptible to it, keeping them out of it, man. Right. You're 62 and you've been smoking. Yeah, you ain't going to work. I would have even been okay, like, okay, older people, maybe you kick them a couple little bit of extra bucks just because they can't work. I would have probably been okay with that. All right. But nope. Yeah, we're not all dropping like flies now. You young people seem to be recovering awfully well. Let's go. All right. We're gonna work. And we're not going to mortgage the future for stimmy checks and all. And they still bought stuff. I mean, it's still like mission critical parts of the economy were I wouldn't have basically bankrupted the United States. I would not have printed off so much money that we are on par with World War II to debt GDP ratios. We spent just as much money on that as we did World War II relative to GDP. I would not have done it. Well, of course, this requires hindsight, looking like, oh yeah, I guess everyone kind of did live. And I don't want any of the audits coming in. Actually, I know people did. I'm aware. I'm aware. Just asking, shoulda, woulda, coulda, Monday morning quarterbacking, knowing what we know now. Was said, yeah, old, frail, stay the fuck in. We'll help you out. We're gonna, yeah, some money could be printed, some money could be borrowed, all right? But we're not quadrupling the money supply. So a 21-year-old who's perfectly fine doesn't have to work and can get their chicken tendies and go play video games all day. No, no, it's not happening. And then the states, they'd be like, but our people. I'm like, but I guess it sucks to be you. I guess that's a hard choice. A bad thing just happened. There's no avoiding the consequences of the bad thing. You figure it out. Did you save money for a rainy day? Do you have a rainy day fund? Or did you just, there's a shock. Every entity should have a rainy day fund, whether you're an individual, a corporation, or a government. You should have a rainy day fund. No, I'm going to borrow more. I guess you could have borrowed from banks. Like banks could have had lines of credit. Oh, we got, you have an emergency line of credit. Oh, that keep us up and operating for a little bit more. If you want to go and pay your state citizens stimmy checks, go ahead. But no, we're going to bite the bullet on this. Is going to suck. This is going to suck. And we're going to take all our suck now as opposed to spreading it out over the years. It really is. Do you pay cash for a car? Or do you finance it at 15%? That's what I would have done. But I'm not so idealistic to say that, oh, there'd be no problems. No, absolutely. People would have to do without. You'd have to have probably food from states that were open importing the food. I'm not saying this would be some easy cakewalk. It would have been harder. But I would not have mortgaged the United States taxpayer to the level of World War II. We get any super chats? Nope. There you go. That's it. All right. See you guys later. Toodles.